Hey there, this is Dr. Pam Perry. So today we're going to talk about some of the things that I love to talk about, which is the press, how to get press, and specifically how to become friends with the Black press. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Black press. We're going to talk about the Dallas Weekly, and then also too the Washington Informer, the Afro, the Michigan Chronicle, Real Times Media. There is so much that is in the Black press, and then also we have Black Information Network, which is not really Black owned, but it is Black news, and then also to Radio One, which is also a radio station. And there's a lot of Black owned radio stations and also TV stations. So kind of this is going to be interesting because I'm going to try and navigate this a little bit because the Dallas Weekly, which is an hour behind us, I'm in Detroit. They are going to join us a little bit later in the show, but I'm going to give you my take on the Black media and why it's so important, especially as a Black woman and growing up with that. And then, if you kind of know, even before the whole Black Lives Matter thing, I was a big supporter of all things Black. I mean, always knew Black Lives Matter, but the point of it is whether it's Black journalists and really helping them as well. So, right after this, we're going to get started.
Welcome to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast. Join Pam Perry, veteran PR strategist, Emmy award-winning producer and publisher of Speakers Magazine, who will show you how to crack the code in getting out there to get known. Each week, she either interviews her media friends, PR colleagues, or she just goes solo, offering you strategies on publicity, publishing, and platform building. So, listen up to hear how to get booked on media places and on superstar stages. Now, here's your host, Pam Perry.
So, our guest today, emergencies happen and we just kind of roll with it, rock with it, lean with it, rock with it. Jess Washington, if you know anything about the Dallas Weekly, they just lost the patriarch of that particular newspaper, James Washington. So give a homage to him as well. And then Patrick and Jessica, the family of them, and they're carrying on the legacy, which is really what the Black press does. And so if you look at any of the Black newspapers, I'll give you a good example of a story that happened that this week in the Michigan Chronicle and why the Black press is important. So there's a young lady by the name of Pamela Luheen who is winning an award today, actually, and she's part of my Ready, Set, Go Speak program. And she is winning an award, big deal, 2-day event. It's at the DIA and this and that. And then the host hotel is the Book Cadillac Hotel. And 50 so years ago, her mother was a maid there. She was actually cleaning the toilets and all that kind of thing. So full circle moment, 50 years later or so, her daughter wins an award at the host hotel, and then they are actually celebrating 100 years as the Book Cadillac Hotel. So it's kind of like a thing where the mother was a maid, and then the daughter comes back, and now she's being an award, and that's just part of a good story, I guess you would say, because Jess, her mother, came from down south. The only job she could get during that time was just working, as a maid. I think it was even longer than that. But anyway, so the long story is that her mother worked as a maid, worked there for probably about 10 years. She did a lot of things there. She actually won an award with this Book Cadillac Hotel, which is an iconic hotel in Detroit, Michigan. So we said to the Book Cadillac that their PR department that this would be a good story. And they said, oh, that is probably good. We're celebrating 100 years, And it's not that they were racist, but probably everybody back then was racist back then. But we were just saying this would probably be a good story to really talk about the full circle moment of daughter and mother and how years later it just blossoms. Because if her mother hadn't did what she did, then her daughter Pamela could not have got the awards that she's getting now and all the accolades. So we thought it was a good story. We pitched it. Guess what they said? Nah. They said nah. And I'm like, and we had pictures of her in the paper that she won this award and way back when, right? The paper is yellow and it's tearing up. And and they said, nah. So what do we do? we then go to the Michigan Chronicle, which is chronicle, thinking about chronicling our legacy, telling our stories, chronicling our stories. It's been around almost 100 years as well, if not quite. It may be a little bit over 100 years now that I think about it. But we went to the Michigan Chronicle, went to Hiram Jackson, a friend of ours, and we said, Hiram, he's a publisher over Real Times Media, which owns Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Chicago. There's like a conglomerate of Black newspapers that is really owned by the Real Times Media. And I support them. I support, obviously, the Michigan Chronicle. I always have. I actually used to write for the Michigan Chronicle columns, which I'll talk about that in a minute. And he said, let me put you in touch with our editor. Editor said, okay, send me your information. Now, obviously, we've got to be on point. So we had some information and it ran. And I'll put the link below as well so that you can see it. Now, that would not have happened if we were trying to call a general newspaper, uh, you know, because, like a better word, they don't care. It was just obvious that they didn't care, but it matters to us. Now, obviously, we are a smaller part of the population, but in Detroit, actually, a large part of the population. So I don't know why they didn't. But the point of it is that the Black press is going to be our friend. We can tell our stories, the things that matter, because at a certain point in time, it really kind of started where, with anything, even like with the Afro, the Washington Informer, the stories weren't being covered in a way that mattered to us or in a way we felt was fair. Whoever has the power of the pen has the power. And so the Afro actually was started by the grandfather of Bishop Vashti McKenzie. That was her grandfather, and she worked there as well. So it's now, three or four generations down. But the Washington Informer was started by Denise's father, and now her son may take over, and that's three generations. But the point of it is that there's stories that aren't told in other places that can always be chronicled or told or shared in the Black press. And that's one of the reasons why we have Speakers Magazine, because someone like a Dr. Sade Adu, phenomenal as she is, she got her PhD, very young age, went overseas in Russia, was teaching Russian, doing online courses. I mean, just fabulous things, right? But not in the general newspaper, because to them it may not be a big deal, or it's a thing, it's a space issue, like they can't tell all the stories. So that's why it's important for us, I mean, African Americans, to have our own stories, to have our own newspapers, to have our own magazines, to have our own radio stations, to have our own YouTube channels especially. And so the Dallas Weekly is one of them. Jessica uh, is part of the family of that dynasty, I guess you would say, like a better word, Dallas dynasty, that really is continuing to tell our stories. Now, the thing about it is sometimes they can tell the stories, or we could submit a story, or we can even write columns. And I tell this a lot to people in my Ready, Set, Go Speak community. A lot of times, if you are a thought leader, then lead with thoughts. So you do want to have columns and things like that. Now, there are other publications that will charge you to be a part of their council, whether it is the Forbes Council or you write for Entrepreneur, and they will charge you to write for their publication. I don't know if you knew that or not, but yeah, they'll just charge you. Brains magazine, it's a whole lot of magazines that will charge you thousands of dollars to write for them. And you can fight to try to get in there and to get accepted and all this kind of stuff. Or your Black press, which is your home team, the people that support you and endorse you and will do that regardless, because that's what their job is to support and uplift our community. You can write a column for them. So if you want to write a spiritual column, I just shared one of Dallas Weekly this week of a young woman who wrote a very uh, personal and motivational, inspirational article. The same thing with the Michigan Chronicle. Love them, love them. And they do such a good job. So I want to give a shout out to them. But Dr. Portia Lockett writes a column for them every single month about grief. She's a grief recovery specialist. And so at a certain point in time, was speaking at an event. I had her speaking at the Twisted Storytellers here in Detroit, which is kind of like our version of a TEDx talk, but it's twisted, like it has a twist to the story. And Satori Shakur, she runs that. She's been running that now for about 10 years. And it's our version of a TEDx talk. And it's wonderful. It's played on YouTube and it's actually live. And so Portia was speaking at this event, as well as AJ, which was another Michigan Chronicle uh, reporter. And she heard her story, Dr. Portia's story. She says, "This is really great. I would love, again, this is within our own ecosystem." He says, "I would love for you to write a column. Can you write a column once a month about grief recovery?" And she said, "Yes, of course." So now she has columns that she's writing. She was on stage with Twisted Storytellers, which is a great platform as well for African Americans. Not necessarily completely all African American, but it's run by an African American woman. And she's frequently on the PBS Detroit television station here, America's Black Journal, and that sort of thing. So again, it's not that we want to separate or segregate ourselves, but just know that you will get more endorsement and encouragement, or people will allow you to come through the door a lot quicker, which allows us to really then flourish and shine. So, speaking of which, there is one organization that I'm also a part of, which is a Black Door Society. Sharon Morton is the founder of that. Again, she's in Sirius XM Radio. And so within Sirius XM Radio, there is a section of Sirius XM, which is really called like the Voices, HUR Black Voices, I believe it is. And that particular one has a lot of different shows in there. Willie Jolly show, and there's some other shows in there. I think Karen Hunter's show is in there. So within that, to be on Sirius XM, there are just niches. And again, you can even go to any radio station. Every radio station, there's country radio stations, there's R&B. That's what we're saying. So when you're looking at the Black press, you say, "I really love the Black press," but do you support them? Do you actually send in? There's another newsletter called The Word in Black, which is lack of a better word, it's kind of like a composite of maybe 5 or 6 different Black newspapers, wordinblack.com. It's a great way to really understand what other things are going on around the country. Just like BIN, just had Esther Diller on the show last week. She's with Black Information Network, 24-hour news station. These are the things that are within our own realm, our own ecosystem, where we can actually reach out to and talk. The NABJ, which is an organization I'm a part of, National Association of Black Journalists, they have their event coming up in July 10th through the 13th, I believe. And it's their national convention. A great place if you really want to network those Black journalists. That's where they are. A lot of the Black journalists go to those. They network with each other, but they also network and try to find jobs, because a lot of the recruiters who are looking for Black journalists go to those type of events. That's what they do. If they want to find a Black journalist, they set up a table, whether it's Gannett or ABC or NBC, they basically set up tables and they go to these conferences, these conventions. Same thing with Beepers, Black Public Relations Society. That's another one where you find that African Americans that are in PR are part of a group. When I was in a little bit out of college, I started my own group called Blacks in Advertising, Radio, and Television. Kind of similar to NABJ and kind of similar like PRSA, but it was like a mashup between the two. And we ran that for about 10 years. The whole purpose of that was to mentor and grow and share and give out scholarships to those who were in going into advertising, radio and television, advertising sales, radio sales, television sales. That was unique. And we had another group that we worked with called TAP in Chicago, Targeted Advertising Professionals. Those were the two groups where we worked together. Lana Thompson was over that when she was working in WGCI in Chicago. If anybody knows Lana, she's since gone on to be with the Lord, but loved her. She was a mentor. But the thing of it is that when we're talking about the Black press, Jess Washington included, Hiram Jackson, we're talking even like Essence and all the magazines, Black Enterprise. It was Earl Graves who started that, Linda Johnson Rice. Those are the people that were out in the forefront leading it for us to do this as well, for us to have our own magazines, because it's important. Now, the legacy of Black Enterprise, obviously, it went from Earl Graves down to Butch, but it's still here online. And so a lot of times people say, "Man, I wish I could get in Black Enterprise. I wish I can get in these Essence." Do you subscribe? Because if you don't subscribe, they're not going to be around. So I'm so glad that I'm so, mad that Jet Magazine is gone or whatever, or Ebony is gone. Did you subscribe? Did you support it? So a lot of times we want these things, but we're not supporting the things that we want. What they always say, you put your money where your mouth is. So put your money where your mouth is. And a lot of times, even if you want to write a column for Forbes Council, that's fine. But also write a column for your local African American newspaper and then run an ad maybe from time to time. That will support them as well. So it's always there. And you know, the thing of it is that just like with anything, whether you're in a sorority or a Black organization like Black Door Society or the Black MBAs or the National Sales Network, these are organizations you got to say, like, why are they still relevant today? Why are they still around? Why do we even need that? There's a podcast called um, Black Girls Therapy. Okay, so why do we need that? I just saw that there was a GMA where they were talking about Black women and mental health. May is Mental Health Month. So why is that necessary? It's necessary because we have a voice. It's different. It's culturally different. It's so that we can be heard. I see a lot of times on LinkedIn, people will have amplified Black voices. um that's what publicists do. That's what I do, is amplify Black voices. It's great to do a TEDx talk. That is definitely great, but a lot of times there are other conferences, like maybe the Power Networking conferences, now called the Power Networking Experience and Expo. They have these conferences that you could support as well. So it may be where you can go to different events and say, oh, I'm be a part of this event, or you can support your own events and make them larger. I remember my client, TD Jakes. So when he first started out, he's not where he is now, right? It's different. But when he was doing Woman Thou Art Loose, it wasn't like he was saying this is a Black women's conference, but because he was African American and he put all women on the stages, Woman Thou Art Loose, it became a Black woman's thing and it became a phenomenon, right? It's like, wow, this is really, really big. The same thing with anything. That's why I'm so excited about what Beyonce is doing. She's helping to cross over into other areas, but she didn't start out in country. But when you become so big in one area, then it's like, now I can move out into other areas. It's the same thing with anything that we do. We dominate a target. It's a target audience, a target area, and then we grow out from there. Once we dominate one area, then we move into another area of dominion, like Beyonce is doing. It's like, okay, I was here, then she grows out into there. It's even too, think about Motown. Motown, when Barry Gordy started Motown, it was really a lot of the people in the neighborhood were liking Motown, but then it became to crossover, and it crossed over because it was good, obviously. But then that's where the support started with our community. He didn't start out with Motown and say, hey, we're going to go to Dick Clark or we're going to go on Ed Sullivan. No, it was actually they had the rave within their own community. The same thing with the Black press. Same thing with the Black press. You have to support your own, create your own, make that the legacy, create the dynasty within that area. And you will find that in other nationalities as well. There's Asian newspapers, and obviously there's Latino, uh, Hispanic radio and TV stations. Obviously, there's language differences, but even though we do speak the same language, it's culturally there are things that are different, and that's why we have a different target for that. So I just really wanted to Jess apologizes for not making it today, but listen, the Dallas Weekly is going to be there. It's going to stay there. Like I said, I want to give homage out to her her father-in-law uh, as well for bringing it, and all of the Black newspapers. There's probably about 300 or so Black newspapers, and there's a lot of Black magazines, but like in terms of the ones that you'll find on the newsstands, it's probably maybe about two or three you'll find on newsstands that have the mass distribution, because everything is digital. But we'll say that even though they are digital, you can still support them. A lot of them, even the Dallas Weekly, if you don't want to get a newspaper mailed to your house or buy it, you can always support them digitally, and that's part of it. It's the New York Times even does that. They have a paywall that you can read it free for the day, but if you want to read it the following day, you have to have a paywall. And that's just what media, it's changing, and people have to change with it. That's why a lot of magazines now have advertorials. Speakers Magazine has advertorials because it's different, because people aren't advertising the same way. That things have changed. We embed videos and we charge people to put those things in the magazine. A lot of things are different, and that's why I still love it. I've been in this business for over 30 years, and it's constantly changing, but what thing remains true and will always remain true is supporting the Black press, Black journalists, really making sure that our voices are amplified. More than a hashtag, Pam Perry is always living true to this. If you kind of notice a little bit of the screen here, my colors are red, black, and green, right? That it was intentional. So a lot of this wasn't just because of the last few years of like, oh my goodness, this is, we got a quote unquote Black Lives Matter. No, it always mattered. We just have to make sure that we're supporting it with our intentional. When we say, oh, we want to be in the newspaper, I should have thought that the story I started out with Pamela Luhang, that you would have thought that the book Cadillac would have cared. Well, who did care was our Black press, the Michigan Chronicle. They cared. So they're the ones that will get the shout out. If you go there, the Michigan Chronicle, and put in Pamela Luhing, you'll see the story in there with a couple of pictures, a nostalgia picture of her mom as well. And her mom is still alive. Her mom can see that. That's the beauty of that. And now it's part of history. So Pamela can show that on down. It's chronicled in our Black press. So I want to just share that about supporting our Black press, really making sure that we are supporting them, endorsing them. If you have conferences, obviously the things that you could do, you could share them with Speakers Magazine as well. Speakers Magazine is things, if you are a person that wants to know how to navigate the media, what to say, how to pitch, where is the media, Ready, Set, Go, Speak is a great place to start. We take you from the beginning of, like, how do you even figure out your messaging? How do you figure out what is a hook? What is it that what story are you really sharing? And then how to really pitch that. And that's all in readysetgospeak.com. You could do that. And we're a community, but we also have training in there as well. So you can learn from the community, and you can also learn from myself. We're in there, and we give you contacts and leads of things that will help you accelerate your brand, help you amplify your message, help you have a bigger platform, because you can post on social media all day, but basically if you have the same number of people on your social media, it's pretty much always going to stay the same. That's why you go to a larger platform. That's why maybe you go to a Dallas Weekly, or you go to a Michigan Chronicle, or you go to the Wave newspapers in California. They're all over the country in most major cities. You'll find Atlanta has a lot of Black newspapers, and then there's also the magazines in Atlanta as well. So when you find those things, and there's some Black TV stations as well, so you want to make sure that you're doing those type of things of supporting your Black press, and they will support you back. I just say, you give, and it comes back to you. So with that, I'm going to put in a little bit of about Ready, Set, Go, Speak and quick media coverage, so that you know more about that, and know that your girl, been doing this like 40 years, backwards and forwards. I know exactly how to get people out there and get known. Name of the podcast, right? That's the name. Hey, this is Pam Perry, really giving you a PR pep talk. How to get publicity. What can it do for you? Why do you need it? What's it do? How much it costs? I'm going to answer those questions in a sec. So what can quick media coverage do? It can help you increase your visibility online, extend your reach, stand out from the crowd, higher ranking on Google so you can get found. SEO is important. That's what PR can do for you, for sure. So when you're ready, go to PamPerryPR.com. Love for you to get out there and get known. Get in all of the media that you see on the website, PamPerryPR.com. Take a pic of the packages for the PR. I'm PamPerryPR.com. All righty. We'll see you there. So trying to make it easy for you so you can take a pic of the packages for the PR. And my name is Pam Perry, and I'm out. So thank you guys. Talk to you soon. Make sure you like and subscribe and share. And we'll also be having another Get Out There, Get Known hot seat this Friday as well. So stay tuned. Talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast, brought to you by PamPerryPR.com, where you'll get insider tips on how to build your platform, pitch the media, and promote yourself with confidence. Head over to PamPerryPR.com and get the exclusive video training on the 7 must-have marketing materials you need before you pitch in order to be considered in media places or superstar stages. PamPerryPR.com, where you help you shine like a superstar.